Dawson City is about 5 hours north of Whitehorse here.
Okay, so you're kind of in between?
I actually have a week's worth of work next week in Dawson City.
Oh, okay. That's great, Carl.
Yep, so we're heading up on Saturday. So, yep. And then another 2 or 3 weeks at another place near Dawson City, about 3 hours away. So, yep. A little place called Mayo. Well, if you ever get a chance, get up this time of year. This time of year through the fall is the best for the Northern Lights.
I'm gonna ask Dave to send me up there so I can dance with the lights.
There you go. Send me a video.
Okay. Have a good day, Carl.
Yeah. It's 3 o'clock in the Yukon.
Yes, and it doesn't look like our. It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't look like our chair is here.
Oh.
Yeah, we just wrapped up our. Hi, everybody. We just wrapped up our regional district meeting. He might just be taking just a minute, but he'll be here shortly.
Cal is just on the phone, so he can't see. So just so that you know that Cal is dialed in and not visually viewing anything on Microsoft Teams.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Colleen. Thanks for letting me know the chair's in the washroom.
I was where?
Rumor has it you were in the washroom.
Don't believe the rumors. Like with the way these meetings go, we're all catheterized.
That would help for sure.
So with that, welcome everybody to the Strathcona Gardens Commission meeting of Wednesday, September 8th, 2021. And we have confirmation of a quorum, Mr. Yates.
Indeed you do.
Take that as a yes. We'll call the meeting to order and I'll entertain a motion to adopt the public agenda, please.
So moved.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? And anyone opposed? That is carried. We have no petitions or delegations. Adoption of the previous minutes.
Move adoption, Evans.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. We have no public considerations at this time. Chair's reports. Nothing to report except I will say, as I did at the beginning of the board or the SRD board meeting, that I wanted to let the entire board know that as the chair of the Strathcona Gardens Commission and also on behalf of the vice chair, Commissioner Lee, and the entire commission, how appreciative we are and have been with the staff at Strathcona Gardens, in addition to the rest of the supporting cast and crew of how they have managed and endured maintaining what programs were allowed to do at Strathcona Gardens but also to keep the major capital projects going forward as well. So just really appreciate the work, and it's been a pleasure to be the chair. So thank you. So receipt of the chair's report.
Move receipt.
Seconder?
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Staff reports, Strathcona Gardens ice allocation policy. Motion to receive, please.
Move receipt.
Move receipt.
Okay, it's moved by Evans and seconded by Runnerud. Any discussion on receipt? And Mr. Leach or Mr. Rack, do you want to comment on this now or when we move to B?
Corinne can speak to it now.
Or at all?
Thank you. Through the CEO and through to the chair, to the commission members, this report has been brought back from last month's meeting regarding actually formalizing a policy and updating the ice allocation policy and bringing it forth for final review to the commission to be adopted as presented.
Any questions from the commission?
Cal here.
Cal, go ahead.
I, as a previous member of the ICE allocation or user group, sorry, I think it's very well done, and thanks staff for doing that. Looks good to me.
Excellent, thank you. Was anyone opposed to receipt? That is carried. And on B, moving the amended policy.
Move B.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
I'm trying to get my hand up, Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Evans.
Thank you. I just really think these are good policy amendments. I think it allows for more inclusivity, particularly with what I read in the report and what's being recommended in the policy, that it's going to enable new participants. There's a way forward for them to have access to more meaningful, I guess I would say, ice time. So I just thank staff for bringing this forward, and I think the recommendations should be adopted. Thank you.
Okay. And seeing nothing further, is anyone opposed to the amended policy being adopted? Is carried. Strathcona Gardens mandatory helmet requirement for receipt, CAO report.
Mr. Chair, I'll move receipt, but I just wanted to apologize for not appearing in the meeting right away. Nobody sent me an invitation, as they didn't last month either. That's why I missed the in-camera last month. Couldn't find an in-camera invitation. Couldn't find a Strathcona Garden invitation today. So it's not my fault, but
Okay,
I'm here now.
Commissioner Lee, glad you're able to join us, and Mr. Leach will take a look at that and make sure that you've got that in advance. I know it's a challenge when staff are trying to get those invites out, especially when the board meetings are going on as long as they have. So,
who publishes the Strathcona Gardens Commission agendas? Like, who sends the invitations? Is it
Edith.
Betty or Edith? Edith.
Edith,
Well,
yeah.
I definitely didn't get an invitation to this one because I looked all through my emails and I didn't get the in-camera last month.
okay,
So,
we'll
Mr.
have
Chairman,
Mr. Leach will follow up on that.
Thank you.
And in the meantime, we have a report to receive, and I believe we had that moved and seconded.
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman, we
Yates?
have a mover. I don't know that we have a seconder yet on that motion.
Tom, you there?
Mr. Chairman, can you hear
Did
me?
we lose Tom? Tom, you're muted.
Yeah,
I'd like to say he's fading in and out, but that would be,
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me now?
we
Yeah.
can hear you now. I'm just confirming that we have a mover and seconder for 2A.
Mr. Chairman, I have a mover recorded, but not a seconder yet.
Thank you. That's
I'll
what I thought.
second.
I'll second that.
Thank you. That's Commissioner Kerr. Any discussion on receipt?
I was reading the report and thinking that the helmet, the mandatory helmet request should also include lacrosse. I've seen a coach get hit in the head with a lacrosse ball, and it's just as damaging as a hockey puck.
It's a good suggestion, Commissioner Kerr.
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, good report. Just a question, if it is mandatory and we are supplying helmets, is, with COVID concerns, is cleanliness and cleaning of the helmets a concern at all to staff?
Through the CEO, through the chair, and to the commission member, in regards to the cleaning of helmets, that would all be a protocol that we would have to establish and put in place. But it has been done at other recreation centers, and those that are adopting it are looking at the same thing. So we're looking at putting in similar protocols to this. And also to address the lacrosse. Lacrosse is not an activity that is an activity that we program for us specifically. We rent out to lacrosse groups that are sanctioned through their association. This requirement for helmet was to address all SRD programmed initiatives of events that happen that the regional district program or sign up or register for drop-in activities. It was not meant to address user groups that have their own guidance through their own associations or leagues.
Mr. Chair,
Go
if I
ahead,
could
Commissioner
just,
Lee.
even though they rent from us, if there was a severe injury or death, you can bet that the Strathcona Gardens will be named in any lawsuit. I think that anyone who is entering an active play area, where lacrosse or hockey are being played, should be required to have a helmet, no matter what their lacrosse association or hockey association says, because it can be a really severe injury and we could be sued for millions if somebody died from that. So I think we need to amend it and require and have a sign up that says all participants on the play area need to be in helmets for lacrosse and hockey.
The one, just in terms of figure skating, they're also on the ice. They also have don't wear helmets on the ice. This, like I said, this requirement was to address SRD, just to bring that forward, but understand that there are activities and user groups that have high-risk activities that have their insurances and licenses with third-party liability insurance with the regional district.
Anything further, Commissioner Lee?
Well, maybe we need a legal opinion on it, because I still believe that we will be held liable. We're the local government. These smaller organizations and this, smaller insurance company that some of them are insured through, they may not be able to handle like a $5 million lawsuit if somebody dies by being hit in the head with a lacrosse ball. You can bet they'll be coming after us, and we need to ensure that we're not going to be holding that liability.
Commissioner Lee, I certainly appreciate and agree with your points. Staff, can you take that as direction? Because we're just on receipt and support of the policy. We haven't got to B yet, but that can
Mr.
be looked
Chairman,
at before it comes
yeah,
back
Mr.
for
Chairman.
final approval.
we can certainly be checking into this further, for sure.
Thank you. Commissioner Kirk, and B, that the policy to support a mandatory helmet requirement be prepared.
Move B.
Second.
And any further discussion? Just further to Commissioner Lee's comments, and also the reference on figure skating. For lacrosse and hockey, it's not just the falling on the ice, it's the hits and the pucks and the ball and the other activity that goes along with it that are a huge risk. Not that there isn't the risk in figure skating as well when you're doing some of the jumps and everything, but I think it's worth having a look at and just checking on the insurance policies and maybe what other facilities are doing as well. So we'll look forward to the report coming back from staff.
Okay.
Anything further?
Cal here, Chair.
Go ahead.
I believe when minor hockey, and Corrine can correct me on this or not, but when those user groups sign their yearly contract, in that yearly contract, it states that those user groups will abide by their parent body's rules and regulations, which covers if you're to wear a helmet, you're to wear a helmet. And if you fail to wear a helmet, it goes back on the association, not back to the facility. Thank you.
And I think we can confirm that, but what Commissioner Lee's point is, that's what it says on paper, but sometimes when it comes down to a serious injury, all parties get tagged.
Correct.
So it's just being cautious and protecting the interests of the facility and the organization.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you. So on B, is anyone opposed? That is carried. On the public health orders, the verbal update, Ms. Garat, Mr. Leach.
Corrine will speak to this for us.
Yes, through the CEO, through the chair. Today, I am going to project a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation. So hopefully you're able to see it and see what is on my screen right now. If I can get a thumbs up that you can see what's on my screen.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. So today, I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview on some of the latest public health orders and how it affects Strathcona Gardens and moving forward with programming and activities here at the complex. The first one I'm going to go over today with you.
Oh, you're leaving. Well, how about that?
Good trick.
Yeah. Yeah, you're muted.
Muted.
Everyone hear me okay?
Yep. No.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to, so you can see that the new order for
You
the
gotta share
indoor
screen again.
masking.
You got to share screen again.
Okay, sorry, thank you. Can everybody
There we
see
go.
it?
Yep.
There we
Thank
go.
you. Thank you, sorry. So the new indoor masking policy has come into effect. This it requires everybody to wear a mask when they're inside this facility. This applies when somebody is actually inside the facility, not outside the facility. The masking order is to separate workers and visitors coming into the facility. It does not include the working areas that behind plexiglass in terms of where barriers and things for the worker have been established. This is the common spaces within the complex and not applied to places where people are engaged in physical activity. So where those events are happening, where the participants are engaged in physical activity, the order does not apply for them to be wearing a mask at that time. But when they're in common spaces, in the hallways, down the corridors of our center, these are where the mask order does apply. It requires people to wear it while they're walking around in these shared common spaces between workers and the public. That's basically the essence of the new order. There has been some issues with some non-compliance with people not wanting to mask up while they're in the facility, but it does apply and it is an order in the regulation. Signage is in the facility that stipulates that the mask order is mandatory and required while you're in Strathcona Gardens. So the next order is the new vaccine requirement. And I know that this has been particularly, there's a lot of information coming out, including the briefing by Dr. Bonnie Henry yesterday and lots of things coming out. This is a place where the vaccine verification process is required. I just want to highlight some key points about the proof of vaccination requirement for a recreation center. For your knowledge, as of next Monday, everybody 12 and older must provide confirmation of one COVID-19 immunization by showing their vaccine card or the app on their cell phone and one piece of government ID, that either being a driver's license or a BC service card. And those ages 12 to 18 will not have to produce a government ID. And it's a pretty important note because we do get a lot in that age category, and they will not be required to show or produce government ID. Proof is required to enter Strathcona Gardens and participate in all activities taking place in the facility, except for youth recreational sport as defined for people ages 19 and younger. So if people are, for participants that are a part of the youth group, they are exempt from this order. They can come in and do their activities. However, the accompanying parents that are accompanying their children are not exempt from this order. They must have the proof of vaccination to accompany their children into the facility and are not exempt for any reason, non-vaccinated, to come in and accompany their children into a program for an exempt program that's running here at Strathcona Gardens. As of the 24th, the vaccine requirement for entrance will change to 2 COVID vaccination immunizations. I'm sorry, my screen is not moving. In addition to that, we have orders to, this is a public health order. That means that this applies to the order applies to non-essential services, and which of the activities that are happening out of this center are non-essential. The order is not applicable to our workers here at the site, and the regional district continues to practice, so on site, hygiene, proper hygiene, and has messaging using sanitization throughout the facility. Distancing, although they're not marked, we encourage people to still follow the distancing acknowledgement by public health, the use of plexi barriers, and the wearing of masks. This order may seem like there are some people that are exempt, as I said, and that seem to bypass a checking or a vaccine verification process when they come into this facility. We've looked into options to kind of look at streamlining the process. At this point, the regional district will not be retaining any COVID-19 health information. It's the responsibility of the user who is using these non-essential services to supply and bring proof of their vaccine and their government ID to enter the facility each time they visit. This is a requirement. The 50% of seated capacity still applies within Strathcona Gardens. So they haven't removed all limitations. There was some discussion in the briefing with Dr. Henry yesterday that perhaps this 50% off capacity would be uplifted as this goes through, and that the capacity would be fully open for those people that are fully vaccinated. At this time, we still understand it to be 50% of seated capacity while in each venue of this facility. So more operationally, staff have looked at the logistical challenges of putting in the proof of vaccine requirements here at Strathcona Gardens, acknowledging to the commission today that in monthly reports, there was this information that came forward about our staff capacity. We are already challenged to meet operational, the pre-COVID operational hours that were established prior to COVID. And this order further amplifies the requirements of staff and the challenging with implementing and turning this around by September 13th, by Monday. This process, I want you to know, is different than COVID-19 screening. When we were operating under COVID-19 screening and using our staff to do this, we were really restricted in the amount of programs and the amount of spectators. And at some point, no spectators were allowed in this facility. So we had some more capacity to employ our staff to do COVID screening. Now we have all of our programs running, all of our staff working, and still can't manage we can handle what we're running today, but we have no more capacity to bring anything more on to the staff right now. Under the latest orders, like I had mentioned, we're still at the 50% off capacity, and this could be nearing capacity of over 1,000 people within the facility at any time. Furthermore, over the last week, and since even the introduction of the mask policy, staff have seen escalating frustration from the public in terms of being not liking the masking rules and not liking the fact that they're going to have show proof of vaccination. This is increasing, and verbal confrontation has been already escalated with staff. For our patrons trying to find loopholes in the system. So the staff considerations that we are looking at, we have looked at talking to our user groups about capacity and asking user groups to help and support the vaccine verification for all user groups booking the facility. We understand that our user groups, such as minor hockey, figure skating club, youth groups, are all taxed with resourcing. Their volunteer base is really the ones that get burdened with some of these new things and new orders that come into place, and this order is no different. They could restrict spectators from coming in to watching their activities, but the intent of this order was actually to incentivize those people who were vaccinated and not decentivize those people who are actually vaccinated to come in and watch their kids play hockey or do their activities. So although limiting spectators is one option, this is something that we know would actually not kind of incentivize people if there was no incentive to come into the facility. The volunteers have also expressed concern that their volunteers are also not trained in enforcing the rules and de-escalation should issues arise. And therefore, there needs to be a process in place if this happens with our user groups and not defaulting to regional district staff and making sure that that comes into compliance with the orders. So staff have looked at the amount of hours that it would need to staff entrance doors within this facility. Approximately right now, based on our operating hours for arena number 2, and this is if we got rid of and reduced the hours to only having one door during the day, there would be a total of 90 hours needed to either staff or look at monitoring the arena number 2 door for services that service the arena activities, minor hockey, adult leagues, ice leagues, and events that come through arena number 2 doors. Additionally, there's 92.5 hours a week of staffing the front door of the building for people accessing the pool and the leisure ice surface. This is a total of 182.50 hours a week, otherwise represented by over 730 hours of staffing entrance doors for vaccine verification. We have researched the cost to hiring a local security company. The local security company is $30 an hour. And if we were to man that, and if we had the capacity within the local security company firms to actually support and help this process, it would approximately look at about $22,000 a month if there was actually capacity to do this. So the alternative would be to reduce down to one door, and that would reduce the costs, and everybody would be funneled through one door. That one door being the front door would be the one that staff would recommend because it services people for the mobility challenged and the vulnerable people that are dropped off here at the center because of handy dart, and it's already established there. That would reduce the cost by not having that. And additionally, we would be able to probably look at limited amount of services. Some minor hockey has expressed concerns with using the front door, as they strongly feel that the majority of their users, which they feel there's a lot more users using the arena side, would then be challenged with hockey bags and equipment and everything going through those doors. And there are challenges by alternating doors and inconsistency with doors and vaccination processes. So flipping from one to the other is also a bit of a logistical challenge. So I also want to follow up. Although I was hopeful in the beginning that local security companies would have the option to help and support us, what I'm finding out even through late last night is that our local security companies are taxed and resourced out. Whether we could actually find capacity is one of the other challenges that we have right now, is that everybody, including us, understand what it's like to be short-staffed and short resources. So my recommendation to the commission is that staff implement the vaccine verification process using any additional support that we can get from a local security company to provide services over the next month at the front main entrance, and that the Restart grant money offered to the regional district be applied for these measures as it directly relates to the COVID-19 orders. Secondly, I am recommending that the commission support staff by asking the users who are booking the facility that they be fully responsible for providing a plan to the regional district on how they will pre-screen and have vaccines, have their participants and spectators based vaccine verified for their activities, and attend everything that is in the public health order. That would remove the burden of the regional district to do that. And many organizations and municipalities are following this same process, that vaccine checks and verifications would happen by the user groups themselves. Recognizing, however, these user groups are taxed with capacity issues as well. That may have some implications on whether people choose to rent it or choose to deliver their services some other fashion. That staff monitor the progress of this and report back to the next commission with an update and options on the several weeks of implementation under the new order, as everything is adjusting, adapting, and we're trying to work on a dime to roll this out by Monday of next week. Those are my recommendations. And I do have a final acknowledgement that communication is important, that I continue. And as early as 6 o'clock this morning, I was on with the president of minor hockey to figure out solutions to move this forward. Meetings with major user groups have transpired. I have meetings all the way into tonight with other user groups to try to figure this out and a path forward. And I know that this goes with the broader context of the general public as well, as we try to adhere to the orders in place as of Monday. Thank you for your time.
Cal here.
You're muted, Andy.
Commissioner Lee, go ahead, and then Commissioner Grunroyd.
Okay, so so staff are not required to have proof of vaccination. I mean, we do have staff working in the facility that are not vaccinated. Do we know that?
Correct.
They're not obligated to tell us their status, but nor are we required to have them fully vaccinated to be on site. The order does not apply to our workers.
Yeah, this is my problem with the public health orders. The way they're delivered to the public is that they have exceptions to every rule. And, you know, you can't have a completely safe building if, you know, the workers are not vaccinated, but the public are required to be. I just think that that's a huge fault of the provincial government for not being stronger on making sure that people are, you know, required to be vaccinated in order to work with the public. That should be a given. And, you know, I mean, and it's only a given in the health sector. If you work as a care aide in a long-term care home or a nurse or a doctor, you have to be vaccinated. But other sectors are not. And I find that really hard to swallow from the provincial government. And I think the public will be perturbed about it if they know that the workers are not vaccinated, but they are required to be. Having said that, like, I got my proof of vaccination this morning between the electoral area committee and the board meeting. And it took me about an hour waiting for somebody to serve me, but I got my proof of vaccination, so it's not that hard to do. People shouldn't be, it isn't very hard to get your proof of vaccination, but it would be very hard to get it if you're not vaccinated and you have to have proof by September 13th. That's too short a timeline for people. So that's all I have to say, is that that's what I would communicate to the province, is that, be consistent with your rules. If the public are required to be vaccinated, so should the workers.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Completely agree. Commissioner Brenner?
I would just like to first off say, Corrine, you got a huge challenge ahead of you, and catch your breath. I'd like to also say that I think I agree with Commissioner Lee, but that's where we need to keep the process in place, as Corrine has said, about the distancing, the barriers, the masks, the seating capacity, et cetera, et cetera. We have to do the best we can in looking at, as much as we'd like to have everybody double vaccinated, some people are unable to or just decide not to. We have to keep those barriers in place to prevent the spread of the disease. And finally, I would like to support the two recommendations that have come forward: the vaccine verification process assistance plan, and then secondly, the user groups screening of their members. I believe that they need to take responsibility for their members and take that off of Strathcona Garden staff plate. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from commission members?
I just wanted to know, does Corrine need endorsement from the commission to hire a security company to man the doors?
Well, let's give everybody an opportunity to weigh in, and then let Corinne respond. Not seeing anything further, so I'm going to weigh in and just follow up on Commissioner Gunnering's comment that I find it somewhat hypocritical that we have one order for patrons and no order for staff. And I think, I don't know what the legal implications are, but I just really struggle with the hypocrisy of that, and that we should be mandating that our employees are fully vaccinated in order to report to work in a public environment. That's just my opinion. I also want the commission to know that I have received a number of complaints from anti-vaxxers who have been bringing children into the pool area and have been denied to enter into the change rooms. So good on our staff for enforcing the rules. And but it's unfortunate that they are taking abuse, verbal abuse, for enforcing the public health orders. In some cases, and I can see this escalating, where people will be making this an issue just because, and we're seeing that in other places. That said, last weekend, the staff and the storm organization were excellent in monitoring the exhibition games that went on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and making sure that the crowds were fully masked, and distancing was done reasonably well. I will say that I did hear a couple of comments and experienced it myself, that if you're sitting in the top row, you have someone standing 4 inches behind you breathing down your neck. And if there is a way to be able to maybe put a tape line that is, do not stand closer than this, that may be an option. But overall, it was a really good experience and had a lot of positive feedback from the people that attended. The four certainly recognize the challenges with trying to get staff and then trying to hire a security firm. But I think a security firm is the best way to go if we can get them, because they are trained in how to manage people and deal with the situations that we know we can expect, and would be unfair to put our staff in that situation. So my question to Mr. Leach or to Ms. Garak, did we receive COVID restart money that could be used to do that?
Yes.
And then the last one is, if we're going with the single entrance, or if it was just two entrances, will the others be locked? Because I could see 4 guys with their hockey bags or lacrosse or something, sending one around to the main entrance while they all stand at the back door, and then they come through and then open the door and let the rest in. Difficult for our staff to be able to manage all the entrances that we have, but I think we've got some creative fellows that would figure that out pretty quick and how to get around the system. And then overall, great report, challenging situation. We know that there's going to be some individuals that are going to just stir it up to make a point because they feel entitled to do so. And that's going to be unfortunate for our staff to have to deal with and experience. So thank you very much for a really well done report. Anything further?
So, Mr. Chairman, a motion to receive the report would be, I think, in order.
Thank
So
you.
moved.
I think seconder.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Kerr, Commissioner Evans.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you again, Corinne, for a great report and some obviously well thought out recommendations for how to proceed. I'm just wondering, as part of your strategy, I didn't see it in your presentation, but is there additional training that staff need to take to deal with, harassment or anything like that? Is there any way we're providing that? Because I think as you heard from some of the commissioners and the chair himself, the potential for this escalating is different than when people were wearing masks. I think this kind of just takes it one step further. So yes, there's going to be security guards at the doors, but the sort of the protest can happen outside the facility. It can happen, throughout the facility. So my concern was just for staff, if there needs to be any additional training and or support. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. In terms of the staff training, de-escalation training, we had some periodic training and we do update some of those training. We do know through COVID, when a period of absence, that we would want to update our staff to be more abreast. And I am working with the regional district senior HR manager in looking at opportunities to bring more awareness and training to our staff so that they feel more comfortable with situations should they arise. It is scenarios that we practice in service training, and obviously some feel more comfortable in approaching it than others. And then we have the onboarding of new staff. So going through some training and bringing people up to have the latest information and updates in terms of that is something that we are looking at. Thank you.
Commissioner Lee?
And I was going to suggest that since the RCMP share, they're right across the parking lot, that it would be a good idea to alert, maybe talk to the community liaison officers or alert the non-emergency number at the RCMP that you're anticipating some resistance to this new regulation when people try to access the building, and that, somebody should be prepared to walk across the parking lot and help enforce the law. Because I've talked to a couple people in the past few days, and I think it's their mental health is breaking down because of the length of the pandemic. I've had people like screaming at me, like literally screaming and refusing, saying they'll never get this, proof of vaccination, that the government's going a bridge too far and they're impinging on their rights. And some people, there's this fringe of people that are very angry. And, you know, there's been incidents in communities of people being held at gunpoint, at machete point. It can be dangerous. So I think the RCMP should be on alert that you might be dealing with some angry people.
Thank you for that. Anything further? Any additional comments, Commissioner Evans?
Thank you. And I just looked up the Citizens on Patrol that assist the RCMP. I don't know, Ms. Grech, if that's another alternative for, I think it's saying that they need a minimum of 4 hours per month. That's not going to be a problem for you. But anyway, I'm just as another potential resource.
Thank you. I also want to highlight that a couple of things that I didn't note in the presentation. I have been in communication with the management at the City of Campbell River and the Sportsplex in the community center, who I do recognize we're trying to follow a same pattern at all the community centers, and that our messaging is aligned so that wherever you go through the city at a community center, you're following the same kind of path. And so consistency in this message is important. And I really wanted to emphasize that right off from the start when this was introduced, we started conversations with our colleagues at the City of Campbell River to make sure that everything was going to align, and we'll continue to try to align the best we can going forward. Secondly, when it comes to the Campbell River storm, we have met with the Campbell River storm as of yesterday, had a really good meeting. They're really proactive in trying to figure out the best way to logistically handle their COVID or their proof of vaccination with their spectators and other participants going forward. They will file a plan. There was one comment about the offering of food services through our concession. Recognizing that food services is an important part when they hold a liquor permit. So there was some concerns about unmasking while in the arena while you're eating food. But at the same time, if you're going to be holding a liquor license and you're going to be doing that, it's no different than going to a Canucks game or any other 50% off ticket capacity. You're still able to sit in a seat, eat your takeout food. It is some of the challenges in logistics. So that is one thing I just wanted to bring to the Commission's attention.
Okay, thank you. Just when you thought you had the I's dotted and T's crossed, here we are. With that, seeing no other comments or questions on receipt of the verbal report, anyone opposed? That is carried. And with that, I will just say thank you, Ms. Garak, and thank you to your staff. And you have our backing and support for whatever you need to continue on. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Motion to terminate.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner
Second.
Gunnerud. And was that Commissioner Evans?
Sure.
Mr. Yates, how are you doing way down there?
We're still here, live and kicking. Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll let you go home. Anyone opposed to adjourning? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
Andy, did you want to speak with Dave and I before you leave on your communication that you wanted to follow up on?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, fellow British Columbians, my sentence is over October the 5th in the Yukon, so I'll be heading south as of that date.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Good.